Okay, we will go ahead and get started here. As you signed on, you shared with us where you're at in the fair planning process. And it looks like we're all over the board from working on drafting a plan all the way to actually having a plan. So the good news is I think we're all working on it at this point, and we hope that this training will help you consider a virtual resource potentially for Flipgrid. So we will go ahead and get started here this morning. And first up, I believe we're going to turn it over to Karen. I will give everybody a heads up. We are going to record this for anybody who was unable to join us but wants to be able to get this training. So Karen, you are first up.
All right, good morning, everybody. I will share my screen. I just want to briefly talk about what we have in mind here for as far as you filling out the information using Flipgrid. Sorry, hang on here a second. I'll get things going here in a second here. Maybe I'll share my screen. Oh dear. Things are not working right here this morning. Let me go back out here.
Karen, does it show you an option to share?
Yeah, it does. Well, yes, it does. I'm just trying to get my file where I want it here. I thought I had it right here. Let me move this over. Sorry about that, folks. It's Monday, or actually it's Tuesday. So, all right, let's try this. All right. Can you see my Word document there? Okay, good. All right, so I just want to take a few minutes to kind of help guide you on some things to fill out using Flipgrid. As far as what to provide the 4-Hers on what kind of questions to answer, things for them to think about when they're sharing their information about their project. So these are just some things I came up with. I think the guidelines is to use the experiential learning model. So I think it's important that they introduce themselves, you know, what their project is, and then get into describing it, you know, what they chose, why they chose the project, what they like about it, what was challenging, what new skills did they learn, what would they do differently, and so forth. Essentially, it's kind of like them giving a little demonstration or even a little project talk. You know, here's what I did, here's what I learned, and what kinds of things did they overcome and the challenges. So these are questions that you can write in when you're developing your Flipgrid as far as the description of the class, so that they understand what kind of things we're looking for. And then that will also help guide the judges on what kind of questions to ask when they go to judge the project. So hopefully, you know, I'm sure you can come up with other questions too, more than what I've got here, but these are just a few. You can also add project specific questions in there if you'd like to. I didn't get into that because there's too many and I can't think about all those. I don't know what all those would be. So, so anyway, hopefully we'll get this put up on between teams and give it to Donna to put up on a website so that they have that available to them. And I think that's all I have.
Awesome, thanks, Karen.
Yep.
Corinne will be next.
And so, like what Karen was sharing, we are, as people work on different questions to share for projects, we are going to collect those too, so we can post them together so that agents across the state don't have to create those questions and think of them each time. And so from the aspect of helping train your judges, that's part of why it's important to think about the good questions to ask so that your judges have good criteria to consider when they're doing this virtual judging. I don't know if all of you are aware, I wasn't until we started doing this Flipgrid presentation for you. The three of us, Caitlin, Karen, and I, each recorded our videos to share, not in a meeting format, but in our videos via Zoom. And I didn't even know that was an option. Karen and Caitlin taught me that. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm not for sure if I'll be able to actually walk you through another Zoom while I'm doing this, but can you all see my Zoom screen? From there, you can go into your Zoom account, and then you can just start a meeting with yourself. Oh, it looks like it logged me out. So if you just start a meeting with yourself, it's not going to allow me, of course, to start one here. But when you go into Zoom and you go into its main page, just start a new meeting. And from that, you end up being able to record it. And it's a really great feature because the way I'm sharing the desktop with you via Zoom right now, you have that opportunity too. So you can actually walk them through the Flipgrid criteria that you set up, not just the one. Of course, we're doing that statewide training, I believe, on June 22nd. But I'm going to probably train my judges if we end up having to go with a virtual fair. I'll kind of do a quick Zoom lesson, maybe it be 5-10 minutes, just to actually walk them through what I set up. So that option, why we're showing this is so that you can actually see that you can do that and then navigate back and forth between what you already have set up. And while I have this already set up here, I was going to show you, oh, and before I move past the recording the video, when you are done recording your Zoom meeting, when you end the meeting, it then converts it to an MP3 file, and you can, I'm sorry, an MP4. You can actually save it to, you can have it record to your computer or record to the cloud. So it's a pretty simple way. And then, you know, when you're navigating in between, if you want to cut some things out, that's how I made that one that I shared with you guys, the 20-minute approximate one. I made it shorter by cutting out some of the steps. So we've also had questions about, can we duplicate and can we share grids across the state? Now we know not all fair departments are the same, but we do, I know a few counties that have worked, if they're in districts, to make some of their districts more similar, or the county fairs in their district more similar, so that you don't have to take the time to recreate each field if you have areas that you're going to be judging in the static, let's say, departments. So you can already see right there that I left it duplicate fair, foods fair. But if you go into your grid, it's super simple to just copy or duplicate the grid. So you can select duplicate the grid, and only topics will be included. It does not get rid of any of the videos. So if you've already had people load it, or if you've used it in a different county, or you've shared it with another county, you're not going to lose that data. And so you can duplicate it. It does take a little while depending on how, like, if you have, let's say, 14 classes in fiber arts, that can get pretty deep. But once it has it duplicated, it renames it with just a generic code. And that's normal. It says it's pending, or that it will show up on my screen. So I know it went through that action by going back to my grid, and there it is right there. So it adds it like that. I left it named like that so I would be able to remember that that's how it renames it. And then you can just come in and edit the grid. So you can make it second county. If I could type. And then you can change the flip code right here. Remember, the flip code is the passcode that you actually share with your 4-H family. So if you leave it generic like that, when it generates it itself, that's kind of a hard one to remember. So I'm not going to steal that name at the moment, just because it does actually reserve that as a Flipgrid, so no one else across the county or the state or country could have that. So I'm not going to rename it right now. I'm going to leave. But here's also the place where you can save as a different password. I'm still toying with the fact of whether each grid needs to have its own password to keep it all more safe, because if someone cracked the code, they would have all access to the grids. Again, that's something that you'll want to think about on your own security, but I just don't want my families to have to remember too much information. And just like all the other grids, you can personalize it with pictures here. You know, they have some pictures loaded and different information or different screens. So like if you wanted to make all your foods one solid color, I know we're trying to compile a data bank of pictures so that people can go in quickly and get those photos instead of searching the web. But this picture right here, I can't remember what state this was from. It looked generic enough and you couldn't see the names on it. That kind of looks like your county fair table. So that's actually how I came up with that picture. So as I just cancel that. Now, the thing about sharing across county lines, or let's say with other agents in across the state, if you really wanted to, again, remember, you can add co-pilots. And so if you add their email that they signed up with Flipgrid, then they have access to it, and then they can duplicate it, and then you can remove them as a co-pilot. So it's that simple. If you want to share it with some county to the west of you, or if you want to share it with someone else within your district, add them as a co-pilot briefly. They can then duplicate it, and then they can take their duplicate grid and go on and recreate it just a little bit for their own fair, and then you can just remove them from your original co-pilot, from your original one. Now remember, you can add unlimited co-pilots, so I guess you could leave them there if you want to, but again, when you have different judges and different people navigating it, sometimes it's easier to kind of leave that clean. So then we wanted to talk about doing the rubrics with you. When you're doing rubrics, remember they're added on each topic. So let's say you created your grid and you've already created all your topics and you decide, oh, I want to add something to that judging rubric. You have to do it under each topic. So for each level, so in foods and nutrition, like I said, I would have my level 1 as a topic, my level 2 as a topic, my level 3 as a topic. And so as I'm doing that, if I decided I want to go back in and add more customized rubric information, you do have to actually go in and add it on each topic. Now I'm going to show you, let's pretend like I'm back into a horticulture rubric here. And so, you know, the state fair has uniformity, market quality, true to type, fair preparation. So excellent, good, fair, needs improvement. You could actually add that to your rubric there and make it just a numeric score. So if I would do that, so it doesn't have to be just the Danish, but remember, if you add it, you actually have to have the judge score it. So we don't want to make it too difficult for the judges to actually use the rubrics. So let's say those are the characteristics. You would do it for each one. So uniformity would be what you would call this one. And then you can have the excellent. I'll just do fair, good. And remember to put them on a scale. So I started putting my highest as 3s. You can do, or the top number in my scale, you can do it as you want. And sometimes I always, like in my mind as I'm thinking through this, I think that sometimes there might not be enough information to actually score. So I'm always going to give them the opportunity, or the judges, to have that choice. Oh, and I always do that. Whenever you swipe backwards too far, it removes that from there. And not to bore you guys with re-adding that. I hate when I do that. It is a little frustrating sometimes, and that's, I guess it's good to show you that it happens. There, I'll stop there and try and just do this. Ah, nope, I did it again. Okay, I'm not going to show you, but it would actually show up as the second created rubric. And then when they go back and judge it, that's how that they would actually score that as well. And so like when you're thinking about the foods one, that's why when I went in here, most of these things you can't necessarily score based on the video. So even in foods, I was thinking where you could actually do knowledge of ingredients and ask the judges to score them on their knowledge of ingredients and ways that they were able to use them in the recipe, if that's one of the questions that you prompt them to answer. And again, because a kid may not be able to answer some of the questions that judge asks, just include that NA in your scoring so that they know that the judge felt like there just wasn't enough information to share with them. So those are some of the tips right now that I have found as far as being able to record your information so that you can share it with your judges, so you can actually walk them through each of their departments individually. Then you can also design your rubric to be more than just a ribbon placing. It actually gives it another category that comes across in that Excel file. So it's really good way to share more information with your 4-Hers without your judges actually having to type a lot. So if you really want them to just do some ranking, that would keep it consistent. It also may be an area where you could include champion and reserve, but I think you would actually have to mark in A on those if you had another category for champion and reserve to go back and mark later on. So that's something that if you explore that and find some more info, I honestly just haven't had enough time to record it. I just thought it would be a good way to see if that information comes across that way. So let me see if I can get back to, so that we can get back to Caitlin. Hang on one second. Okay, Caitlin, I think I covered everything that I was supposed to.
Yep, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, Corinne, can you see the how-to for agents?
Yeah, can you make it a little bigger?
Well, of course not. Hold on. I think because it's in Teams, it's not wanting to like zoom in. That's okay. So I'm going to talk about these resources, and here in the next 2 days, I promise you these are going to be moved over to the youth development teams. If you're not already using Microsoft Teams, this is a great time to dive into that. All of the resources that our static committee has put together for Flipgrid is on there, but you will also find a plethora of other resources for planning your 2020 county fair. And I know at the beginning we had asked folks where they were in the planning process, and people are all over the place at both ends of the spectrum. And if you're just getting started, look at these resources. There are discussion guides out there about how you can tackle having conversations about what your fair will look like this year. And we realize for some of us, those came a little too late, but for those of you that are just getting started in the process, know that there are resources out there available. If you go to the Youth Development Teams page on Microsoft Teams, there is a summer showcase file under there, and you're going to find a ton of resources. So we're going to work on moving these over to the public Teams page. Right now, they're just in our committees page. But we have 3 really detailed how-to direction sheets. And Corinne put one together for agents, or if you're going to have superintendents put this together, whoever is going to be building the Flipgrid out, this resource that I'm sharing here on this page is a great step-by-step. There's also things to consider in here that Corinne has outlined, and we even get as detailed as screenshots as you're going through the process. So I'm confident if you are at the place where you need to start building out your Flipgrids, we also have 3 videos that are already out in the Youth Development Teams folder under Summer Showcase folder, then you're going to look for Flipgrid resources. Under there, you're going to find 3 videos that also walk you through a very similar process. So watch those videos. We're recording these live trainings as well, and then we have the written how-to. So I feel like there's lots of ways for you to get information in between the 3 of those. Hopefully you're on a good track to put your fair on Flipgrid if that's what you need to do. So we have the written resource here, and we're going to work on moving all of these written pieces out, but know that those are out there too. Close this. Okay, we also have one for the participants. And honestly, that's probably the easiest thing to do, is for the participant to actually participate in the fair via Flipgrid. And also know that we're keeping these in a Word document. So if at any point you need to pull the plug on that face-to-face experience for whatever reason, you will have the ability to go into the written resources and localize that for whatever your local fair looks like. We realize very much that all of us look different. For your county fair experiences, your classes, your setup would be different. So if you needed to switch out any of these screenshots or any of the detailed directions, hopefully this would be at least enough to provide you an outline so you don't have to reinvent the wheel when you're getting that information to your 4-H family. And the last resource I wanted to share here, Karen put together a piece about judging via Flipgrid, which is also going to be a really important component of setting up a Flipgrid, is making sure you have judges who are then willing to judge virtually. So here, this would be a resource that you could share with your judges. And yet again, it's going to be in Word. So if you need to change any directions, if you're looking for something different, you could communicate that here through this document. And Karen has done a great job of showing what all of those pieces look like on the judges' end to respond to the entry virtually. So those are all there. And I wanted to show you, because I know our system is all over the place as to how much people are using Teams. So I'm going to go back. So right here, you're going to click on your KSRE resources. And from there, you should see, or you should be able to find, a youth development team. You're going to go to Files. And here's the 2020 Summer Showcasing Resources. And everything we have done is going to be under Flipgrid. So right now, a link to those 3 videos are there, and then we're going to work on getting those how-to resources and also the links to the recordings of these live trainings we're doing up there. So know that all of those resources are there for you. Hold on here, I'm working off of 2 screens. So the last resource I wanted to share with you all is if you're in the process, so if you were all the way on the left-hand side, you are just getting started with planning what your 2020 fair is going to look like, there is a piece out there that I would encourage you to look at, and this is in the Youth Development Teams folder. It talks about virtual fair considerations. And this isn't necessarily specific to Flipgrid, but good questions to consider when you're drafting that plan or that scenario as to what a potential virtual fair would look like. So here you can see here, there's questions. So how could you guide your conversation about what the educational purpose would be? Awards and recognition are another big conversation topic that we've had amongst our committee, and we realize that that's going to look really different for each county and what you all decide on. Communications, how will you communicate, what the plan is, what any technical assistance may be, and you can just scroll down here. This is a great resource, in my opinion, for anybody who's getting started in the process. And I know some people are beyond this, but I know in our county locally, we're in the process of getting our plan approved, and we have two scenarios. Really, one is an all virtual, and the other is face-to-face, but in a limited social distancing aspect. So for me, in Douglas County, it was helpful to be able to look back at this and make sure that the plan that we've drafted has all of these things considered. So you may get a couple of new ideas to include in your plan. And this is out there in that Teams folder. So if you're not using Teams, I would encourage you, this is a great time to get started, because all of these FAIR resources are out there. We are working on moving it to the State 4-H website. There is a piece on that State 4-H website that you can look at too. But know at this point that what is up there is pretty limited. So and I was going to see if I could share. Oops. Yeah, looks like, sorry, I don't have that pulled up. But right now on the State 4-H website, we just have the 3 videos, and I think there's 3 other pieces. But if you go out to the Teams page under Youth Development and that Summer Showcase file, there are lots and lots of resources to help you. So at this point, let me do this. So we have one more training scheduled for next Monday at 10 o'clock. And I would open the floor for any questions that you all might have, and we'll be happy to answer those. But if you have any ideas or topics that you would like us to address about Flipgrid next week, if you weren't with us last week, we are planning a judges training on the evening of June 22nd. So know that we'll be doing that. And we realize at some point, local county fairs could or could have not already made your decision by June 22nd. But we have early fairs rolling out the beginning of July, and we wanted to catch those judges if we needed to. So June 22nd, we'll be able to do that. And then it looks like somebody put something in the chat there. Corinne, can you see that chat for some reason?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just a great job. But
okay.
I was also going to ask if anybody's already gotten on Flipgrid and started creating their fair. Anyone who's here, if you've experienced something or have information you're willing to help share or teach at the moment, jump on. We would love to hear from you right now. Has anybody gotten started? Anybody have any tips or challenges or things they worked through while they were doing it?
Hey, Caitlin, on the 4-H Northeast area just a little bit ago, I thought maybe, I wasn't sure if we were going to share today Candace's best practice document that she was working on. That was brought up at that meeting about things people should be thinking about if you are going to do like drop off or limited virtual.
Honestly, I don't have that piece in front of me right now, but that's something we can talk about next week. And Corinne brings up a great point. And I want to give Michelle the chance to talk because I know she's dove into actually building her grids out a lot more than we have. Next week, we plan on highlighting what other grids are looking like. So please know if you've started in that process, let us know. You can either make Corinne, Karen, or I a co-pilot temporarily, or we can make you a co-host on here and you can share what you've done. But next week will be more of a sharing opportunity versus getting information to you about the technical side of Flipgrid.
I would just add the one that kind of dawned on me as I was building last week, and I was literally going through my fair book. So, and as Caitlin has in that one document, try to match it to your fair book as close as you can. In my Flipgrid, the title of each topic is literally class number, abbreviated class name, and then if there's an age category. So it's 1207 girl, junior girls buymanship 7 to 9. So that there's no question when they look down through there. So that one, spot on. I would say model that as close as you can to your fair book. It'll make it less complicated for families. The other one was Clover Buds. All of a sudden I was like, oh, we have to have something for Clover Buds. I went into my criteria and just added literally in the criteria, it's called clover bud, and it's a participation, and it goes through. You do have to put a score kind of thing in there, but I was able to put something in there so that it just, but so that way there's a whole grid that is just clover buds. But I'm happy to, if somebody wants to reach out to me, there's a lot I'm sure that I do not know about that program, but I'm happy to make you a temporary co-pilot if somebody wants to go in and look at mine, see what I've got going. I'm happy to share if I can, and if that will help somebody else.
And it looks like, so Jill asked about best management practices. So the larger committee, just know that this subgroup is really dove into Flipgrid. It does sound like, I was texting with Anissa earlier this morning, that the larger committee will be rolling out resources for best management practices by the end of this week. So be looking for that. And I'm more than happy if anyone wants to reach out to me. We have, I feel like, a solid plan locally that is public now. So if you go to our website, douglas.ksu.edu, the draft of what we're looking to get approved is out there. So if you want to hop on there and look at what that might look like, and I know a lot of us are working on getting information approved, like our plans officially approved. So I'm sure more and more of those will be public. Sure. So fair entry, Jill, we use fair entry in Douglas County. I have been attempting to stay up to date on what fair entry can provide in terms of a virtual fair. The biggest hang up for me right now on the participant side is that they cannot actually upload a video into fair entry. Rather, they would need to upload a video into a platform like YouTube. You can include a URL to a video. So that's where I get into, you would have to upload the video to YouTube. The 4-H'er would then have to take that link and enter it as their entry into fair entry. The other hang up with fair entry, as of last week at least, is that there was not an opportunity for judges' feedback to be in a video. Only written comments were to be taken. So fair entry does have a website that is devoted to a virtual fair experience. So know that you can go to their website and stay up to date on what they can offer. But as of last week, it looks like everything was written in terms of judges' feedback. The other piece is that it's really just allowing for still photos to be uploaded by the 4-H'er, which that may or may not work for some local fairs. But for me, the plus side of Flipgrid is the fact that it's more of an interactive experience. What other questions do we have? Sorry, go for it, Corinne.
No, I was just going to say, and if you are a better learner by experimenting, remember we can create a sandbox for you by adding you as that co-pilot, letting you duplicate, and then you can either go post a video as a 4-H'er to it and have that experience yourself. Until you've experienced it, you don't realize how great it is for the kids. And you know, all of these steps I included on the agent tip sheet too. So how to duplicate a grid, how to add co-pilots, all of that's added on there for you. So if you're better at visually learning too, do that. But I encourage you to reach out to one of us and we'll add you as a co-pilot so you can play in a sandbox and really experience it. Maybe even as a judge too, you can provide feedback to your own. I bet Karen as a judge would be appreciative if you actually experienced it too, so you could help navigate.
Yeah, if you want to do that, just let me know. Just add me as a co-pilot and I can be your judge. Now, I do want to point out one thing that I learned here in the last couple of days about giving feedback through Flipgrid. If the judge uses their phone or a tablet, they cannot give direct video feedback to the 4-H'er privately. You can give written feedback and obviously score the rubric, but it does not allow the judge to give that private feedback. You can do a video, the judge could do a video back to the 4-H'er, but it would be public. There is a way to do that. So it's a choice. So if they're going to use a mobile device, just know there's that little quirk about the system. In Flipgrid, I emailed them and asked them about that, and they said they're working on that option. I don't doubt it's going to happen this year. So you have to think about what kind of device is the judge going to use, whether it's a mobile device, whether it's a phone or a tablet. If they could bring a laptop or you provide them a laptop, one thing that I figured out was I can use my other camera, my separate camera that's not connected to my laptop. And then I can actually video judging. You doing that. I understand that not everybody has that, but I just wanted to tell everybody that worked for me to do it that way. That way, that video through using a laptop system can actually go directly back to the 4-H'er. So just want to make you aware of that one little quirk about that feedback. But there's always written, and you can send them written through the email back to them virtually, or if you just want to do pencil and paper, you can do that too. So there are options.
Well, and Karen, you also helped us figure out that you can, let's say you have a judge who can't type, but so if they did use their phone, again, you heard Caitlin say she wants to have that judge feedback via video, but if they can't type and you want the written feedback, they can dictate to their phone the same way that you would dictate to your phone to type a text for you. So that is, someone asked us last week if there was a way to dictate the written feedback, and there is via the phone, but then again, you have that drawback that you can't do the video unless Karen got them on that to have them add that feature on a phone, which I can see them doing that because it's for teachers, and teachers working from home on their phone, that would be really efficient.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, if any other questions, and I wanted to open it up. Does anyone else have any other feedback about fair entry? I know there are several counties that are using the system, and maybe somebody else has been in love with what they're offering virtually. Anybody? That's totally fine. I just wanted to open that up. Okay, so if you
Caitlin?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Diane. So I made the notation about the judges list. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that. So the food judges training that Karen and our team did. So those folks, the list there is from all over the state, and you can sort by the county that they're from. So it's from each corner that we have judges there. The first sheet is foods and nutrition. The second sheet within the same Excel file is food preservation. Now, when I call the list that Penny in my office helped put together, it's called the Northeast, but basically, I mean, some of those judges are clear from Russell, so you just need to go in there and sort, and that list contains all project areas by the counties that the resident county, and so you can see where some of those could pull from. Northwest also had a training earlier this spring that I know Karen was a part of. There were about 4 different project areas. So click on that one as well if you're looking for judges. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything they would like to share? Okay, and I know we didn't get the chance to write up on that slide. So if you have any other questions or topics you would like us to address next weekend, feel free to drop those in the chat box before you leave us, or you can always email any of us 3, and we would be happy to do that. But no, next week is going to be more of a show and tell experience. So we will be asking some of you who have started building those grids to share what you've done and what you've learned through that process. Anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining us. Happy Tuesday. That seems like Monday. We will see you next week.